Hi guys, in this video we're going to make a little figure of a Rocket and he's going to be holding a little baby Groot. Now I've got some modelling paste here. I'm going to use the Cake Duchess one for this one. I'm going to have a bit of a go with this one, so it's quite a nice firm one to work with. And I've just dyed it a pale orange for the body. And we're going to make a little bit of a kind of cone shape. It's slightly thinner at the top than the bottom. I'm going to just draw in a couple of little markings for the suit. Just use my Dresden tool for that. Now I've dyed a dark grey, so I've got a little bit of white and black modelling paste together here for this. And we're just going to roll a couple of strips to put down each side of the body. I'm just pushing these on. If they don't stick, just add a little bit of water or edible glue under them. You'll see I've dyed my hands orange when I dyed the suit. And we're just going to cut some little thin rectangles of the dark grey just to put on the suit again. So we're going to put 3 down each side. Just going to round off those sharp corners that are on it. Do the same with the other side. Now I've got a little ball of orange that I've cut in half and I've just sort of stretched that out slightly, and these are going to be like the tops of his legs, and they're just going to go on either side of the bottom of the body. And then so his leg looks like it's kind of bent round a little bit, we're going to push a little line just from that bottom corner of the leg upwards. Then some more dark grey, so just a round disc, quite small, bottom of each of those legs. And now we're going to work on the little plant pot. So we want to start with a small cylinder. I've gone for like a grey blue kind of colour here. You just want a slightly different colour that's going to sit on the top. I didn't want to go too brown because baby Groot's going to be brown. Now I'm just going to roll a thin strip and just make sure it's slightly wider than our cylinder. I'm going to wrap this around. So just make sure it's long enough that it does go all the way around. We'll cut all the way through that. So make sure you go through both sides just to neaten that off. Just pull away both edges and stick that onto the body. And I'm just going to use the handle of a paintbrush. You can use whatever you've got to hand, just to poke a little hole in the plant pot so that later when we're adding baby Groot he'll fit in there. I've got some paler grey that I've rolled for the head, arms and feet. So start with 2 balls. We'll roll them into long sort of teardrop shapes, and we're just going to add a couple of little lines so it looks like he's got toes. Just curve them over slightly, and they're going to go on the bottom of each leg, just near those black bits that we put on. But first we're just going to add some little pads to the paws with the dark grey again, so just a little oval piece, the bottom of each foot. Then these are ready to stick in place on the orange bit of the leg that we made. And it's up to you if you want them pointing upwards or downwards. Have a play around, see where you think they look best. So they should look a bit like this. And we're going to give him a neck. So we've got the same colour grey as we've just used, small ball, just push on the top of the body, don't make it too big. And I'm just going to put a piece of spaghetti through. Now, if you're not going to eat it, you can use a cocktail stick. If you think it's going to be eaten, then use a piece of spaghetti. Just push that all the way through till you know it's hit the bottom. And then we'll just snap it off so that you've got about an inch or so stuck out the top. Next, the arms. So we want 2 balls, they're quite small, of the grey again. I'm going to roll them so they're a bit thinner at one end than the other. The thin end, we're just going to kind of push in a little bit to create a wrist. And then we're just going to use our modelling tool to push in some fingers. Put a little bit of water all on the inside of that arm. Just make sure it's long enough that it goes from shoulder to plant pot as well. Once the water's on there, you can push that in place. I'm just going to add some lines with the modelling tool so he looks a bit furry. I'm going to give him a little sleeve. Again, back to the dark grey. And just roll a small cylinder that we're going to kind of squash, and they're going to go above the shoulders. So just do exactly the same with the other arm. Should look like that. And now we want some brown for baby Groot. Now I've got a bit dark with my brown. I think I should have left it a little bit lighter. So we're going to roll 2 long snake shapes. I'm going to wrap them around a small piece of spaghetti. Now I've left mine out so it's dried a little bit, so I'm going to re-roll that so I can do it without the cracks. But at the top, I want you to leave it so each piece kind of sticks out at either side, and just thin it a little bit because these bits will be baby Groot's arms. And can you see there's a little bit of spaghetti stuck out the top and bottom? I'm going to push the bottom into the plant pot like that, and we'll put his head on the little bit of spaghetti at the top. I'm just adding a tiny, tiny piece just along the bottom of that spaghetti where it kind of comes in to touch his arms. So the head, start with a little sort of tic-tac kind of shape, flatten one end, and I'm just going to push a piece of spaghetti in the bottom so we've got a hole there ready. And I'm going to put 2 eye holes in. I'm just using the piece of spaghetti for it. We're going to keep his face nice and simple, just a tiny little mouth, and then we'll pull up sort of the top of the head so he looks a little bit more bark-like. Okay, and then you're just going to push that onto the spaghetti. Place that on that hole, or place it into the hole that you've just made, like so. Next, the head. So start with quite a large ball of the grey. And I'm just going to cut a little piece off either side at the bottom. So it's kind of got a point at the bottom centre of the face. And I'm going to push in the bottom half on each side with my fingers for where the eyes are going to go. And then I'm going to fill these with the darker grey. Give them a really good push in place. Trim any extra off the bottom. Just smooth that off with your finger. Do exactly the same for the other side. And now I've mixed a tiny bit of grey into some white. So it's not a perfect white, it's off-white this that we're using. And we're going to roll a little snake-shaped piece and put it across the top of each of these eye areas that we've done. So they're not going to come all the way down to the bottom in the middle. And then we'll put a couple of tiny teardrop shapes just in the middle. And then with my knife, I'm just going to pull these out a little bit, making small little slits. So again, it looks a bit more fur-like. And then for the nose, we've got some more of this off-white colour. Roll into a ball. I'm going to squish it slightly on our board so it's flat on one side, like that kind of shape. I'm not sure how to describe that shape. And just push that in place near the bottom of the face. Now it looks a bit odd at the moment, so I'm going to take a little piece of grey, so the same colour as the head, and I'm going to push that so it kind of comes from where his little eyebrow things are towards the point on the nose. Push a little line up the centre from the bottom going upwards. And then we just want a little black ball for the nose. So we're going to stick that on, but we're going to give it a bit more shape. So I'm just pushing the Dresden tool just up sort of where each nostril would be to give it a bit more shape. So just push that in place. And then we want to create two little eye holes. So I'm just marking where I want them to go with my piece of spaghetti. You don't have to use spaghetti, you can use a cocktail stick or any other modelling tool you've got to hand. Just widening those eye holes a little bit. And then just before it dries, well, I remember we're going to add a couple more little slits into the bottom of the face so it looks a bit more like fur. Then we want two little black balls for the eyes. Now I've just widened the eye holes a little bit and made them slightly on a slant. So just make sure the little black balls you roll are small enough to drop into those eye holes. And then we're just going to add some more fur effect into the top of the head. You don't need too many, I'm just using a knife this time. Let's give him some highlights in the eyes. You can use a paintbrush or anything that's small to get your white food colouring onto. Excuse my scruffy bits of hair in shot. So a bit on the nose and in each eye. And I'm just going to play around a little bit with the face till I'm happy with it. So I've got my dark grey that I've kind of squeezed into a rough diamond shape, and then I've cut that in half to make two triangles, which are going to be the ears. And just play around with where you want them to go. So it might be that you want them pointing quite upwards, or you might want them pointing downwards. Let's just push a little bit of a dint in the centre of each of the ears, and I'm just putting a bit of water on them, getting them wet, making them tacky for when we add a little strip of white across the edge. We'll make it a little bit more fur-like by running some lines through each one. And then you're just going to push those in place on the head, one at each side. Do exactly the same with the other one. Make sure they are firmly attached. And then what we're going to do is just push the head down onto the piece of spaghetti. Just go gently, you don't want it to snap. It should look like this. So just missing the tail. So I've still got some grey left that we've made the head and the other body parts out of. We're going to create a bit of a tail shape. So it's quite chunky in the middle, quite thin at either end. Just play around with it till you're happy with the size. Keep holding it against the figure so you know it matches. Now I've rolled thin some of the off-white. I'm going to cut some strips. We just want 2 strips that we're going to wrap around the tail. So push them on nice and tight. Just push the seams together at the bottom. And then we're going to put some hairlines through so it looks like he's got a furrier tail. And then we're going to put a small amount of water on the area of the tail that's going to push against the back of the body. Give it a good push at the back. Now it will move when I pick it up, but it wants to be positioned similar to that. So leave him sat down to dry. I would let him dry overnight. And that's him finished. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, be sure to hit the thumbs up button and leave me a comment below. You can see more of my tutorials by clicking on the images on screen now. If you haven't already, make sure you click the subscribe button to stay up to date with my future tutorials. There are also links in the description box below where you can find me on Facebook, Instagram and more.